podcast Strive Not Survive After Child Abuse with episode 61. Um, Today I was talking to a client of my coaching client. So for we call it, I don't know why that is, but we coaches call the people that come to us, and then we call either a coachee or a client, right? And one of the things that we're working on is, is with coaching clients is often, at least it's what I do, is to find people's passion, maybe find better directions in life, maybe set goals, all these kind of things. Now, this person is, now I wanted to say a little bit older, but that is totally not fair because that person is it's about my age. So if I say she's a little bit older, then I'm a little bit older too. So let's not do that. But anyhow, she says in the next coming 12 to 15 years, that's about what she thinks she has left with a lot of energy. After that, she truly believes that she is old and cannot do anything. I want to have a meaningful way to live, so to speak. I was a little bit looking for how to say that, and although that's not a bad way of looking at it, but anyway, no one knows how much time we have left anyhow. So I think we should always do the best we can with the time that's given to us. And if we are really young, then we think we have our whole life ahead of us, but no one knows actually how much time we have. The only thing we know is that a day has 24 hours, 1440 minutes, and 86,400 seconds. Now, it's not that I just remember that, but it's just I looked that up. I wrote a course on time management, and it talks about these things, the importance of how to make the best time use of the time that you have. Now, it's not to talk about this person because I think it's a very common way of thinking, is that we have often really good ideas, or we have big dreams, we have plans and all that kind of stuff, and then we go to our daily routine. And then we go to bed and we wake up again, and either, before we go to sleep or, before we start with our daily routine, we have the same feeling like, oh yeah, maybe we should do this and I can do this in life. Maybe I should change my career. Maybe I should spend more time with my family and friends. Maybe I should travel the world. Maybe I should do all kind of things, right? So, but what is the main reason why it most of the time actually stays with that kind of thinking? Now, one of the reasons is a very normal one, right? We have all our normal daily jobs and we get to that routine, and before you know, the day is over. If we want to do something extra, like we need to do simple things like a weekly groceries, or just a simple extra thing in life, and the day is completely consumed already. So there's actually very little time for most people to even think about bigger plans and dreams and what we want out to set to do in life. Maybe even think about things like having a life purpose or one of those kind of things. And so often these discussion about a life purpose or a higher goal in life is actually, for most people, it's not that they don't want to achieve that. That would not be fair. It's just basically they don't have the time to even think about it, set aside to put that in motion. But the strange thing is, if that's the case, then your life might go by, and when you look back at it, then you say, okay, what did I do? I had maybe a really good career in corporate, or in other areas of life that you did. So there is this. There has been done several research of what people regrets are, right? And most people actually don't regret what they did. You would actually assume that you regret most of the time the things that you've done. In the moment and in the short term, that's definitely true. Then you regret that you, I don't know what, ate food that you shouldn't eat or something, or you regret that you should have exercised today and you didn't, or something like that. Right? Oh, actually, that was not a good example because I already gave it a little bit away. But anyhow, at the end of our life, if research do that, they interview people who are of age, it actually is more that people regret what they haven't done in life. So it could be a big thing like making a travel around the world or something big like that. It could be something like, making it up with someone that they had a long argument in. So it doesn't have to be something earth shocking, or it could be something earth shocking like saying, hey, maybe I should have fought for a bigger cause than having the job that I had, right? Or maybe I should have pursued a career that I really wanted instead of the career that I had. So sometimes we go, from elementary school, we go to high school, and then we go to college, and let's say we study to become, I don't know, an engineer, and then during our career as an engineer, we find out that we'd rather be a teacher, right? But since we say, oh, but that would be a waste of time and maybe also of my college money, I would never change that. And I think if you're happy with that, then I'd definitely stay with that. But I think there's no reason actually to change that no matter what age you are on, right? And that might not be a story that is for you. I don't know about these things, but in this case with this person, she had many plans and she actually has the time to do things. She is also almost retired, so she also has funding. Maybe not that she's rich, but she has funding to at least, do a few of those things. But still, it stays mostly around, I actually want to do this. I don't know what to do. It feels like a lack of motivation, but it is actually not. If you think about life, and you think about, I've been talking about that before, that in our life we have 5 energies to manage. In reality, you have only one energy to manage. I do understand that. That's what I write about. But I created a modality that makes it a little bit easier to talk about these things, and it makes it also a little bit easier to coach and to teach around these things. And we have basically 5 energies that we do, and these 5 energies they literally are parallel with the big areas in life. So if you talk about the first energy, which is your physical energy, and that influences your healthy life. So that's your physical health, and whether you lead a healthy lifestyle. Now, this case, this person, she is physical healthy, and she leads a pretty physical healthy lifestyle. So far, so good. If it comes to a balanced life, then we talk about your mental and emotional life. And that is your mental energy, actually. And I call that your balanced life if it comes to your area of life. And what is your work-life balance? And work doesn't always have to be a profession, because some people are retired, don't have a professional life. But what is a meaningful activity or activities that you do in life? And is there a good balance between these things? I know, I'm old enough to know quite a bit of retirees, so to speak. And sometimes they feel they are even more busy than they were in their normal career, but it feels better because actually they made a choice to be that busy. When they were in their corporate career, it was not a choice. The choice was taken from them. So the balance, although they do more, they still feel that there is a better balance in life. And then the third energy is what I call your creative energy, and that's where your passionate life is. That has to do with your relationships and your emotions that you have in life, the drive that you have in life. So that's what kind of things do you still create? How healthy are your relationships, and how motivated are you to do things, right? So, and then your fourth energy, which has to do with, I call that your manifestation energy, which has a lot to do with your productive life, is what are your achievements, and how do you manage your wealth and finances. And last but not least is your divine energy, and which has a lot to do with your sense of being, and do you feel gratitude in life. Now, in most of these areas, actually, this person, I would say, estimate, is pretty balanced. But you only have to be off in one or two areas to already feel that something is off, and then you just go by in life, right? So in this case, this clearly, at least clearly for me, it was this person actually lacks energy in her creative energy. There is very little creativity in there. She needs to create something. It doesn't have to be like art or something like that. It could be as simple as, once you take a decision, follow it up with an action, and that action could be creative. So if you have an urge to travel, make sure that you go to a place that you haven't been before. It's way more creative than to say, hey, I've been to that place many times before, I want to do the same thing, right? Because I like it so much and know it. Most of the time that is just trying to avoid any disappointments or the fear that something might not be as good as it is. So that's why a lot of people go to on their holiday to do the same thing over and over again. So that's a little bit what was actually lacking in this person's life is to take action in life. And this is probably true for a lot of people. And Tony Robbins says, in your moment of this decisions, that's when you shape your destiny. I've always liked that that quote, but there's actually a quote that needs to go before that, because if a decision is not followed up by any action, it becomes actually meaningless. Now let's take an example of, hey, I wanna learn a language, right? And let's say we want to learn Spanish, or we want to learn Italian or German or French, doesn't really matter so much, right? Then you could say, hey, I took the decision to be reasonable proficient in Spanish in 2 years from now. So it is December 7th today. In 2 years from now, I want to be reasonable proficient in the Spanish or the Italian or the French language, which is absolutely an achievable goal, right? If you know anything about learning a language, that's not such a daunting task to learn it in 2 years' time. What the problem is here is that 2 years, that's a pretty long period to oversee, right? That's 2 times 365 days, and we already decided that one day has 24 hours, 1440 minutes, and 86,400 seconds. So that becomes like, yeah, it's a great goal, but, it kind of slips away. Now, you could take a course, right? And why does a course work? First of all, of course, you get your course material and stuff like that. But in a course, you have some sort of an accountability. Unless you take just an online course and you can do it at your own time, and most of the people do that. And I'm not saying that is you, but in my case, the first 10, 20 days, it will be going really well. Even the first month, but then after a while, kind of, life gets in the way and stuff like that, and you kind of stop with it. That happened to me quite a bit of time. It's just me. I'm quickly distracted and stuff like that. So it's actually better to have some sort of an accountability partner in this, saying, hey, let's call each other every week and see if you did your homework or something. If there's a teacher involved, it's even better. And that's why sometimes free stuff doesn't work so well, because if you pay the price for it, then you are more inclined to do things. Does that make sense? So it doesn't have to be money, but if it costs something, then your decision to do it is actually, you're more motivated to actually do it. So there needs to be also an exchange. So first of all, it needs to be time bound. It needs to be reasonable, right? Achievable in this case. And there needs to be some sort of an accountability in there. So it's actually, you could actually make it even smaller than that. Right now, I don't say that you can learn a new language by just learning new words every day. That would be a little bit too simple. And by the way, I talk from experience. I speak about half a dozen foreign languages, so it's not that I just make this up. I do know how to learn a foreign language, but just by learning new words, it doesn't make you speak a language, but it's just an example. So if you say, hey, I want to do every day 20 new words, that sounds like something that is very achievable, but you actually quickly, if you really think about it, that would be quite a big task. Well, But let's do this a little bit, in a slower pace. What if you do 2 words every day? That's not a bad idea, right? You just learn 2 new words every day. So there are 365 days. So, let's do a rough calculation. It's 700 words. You take a few days off in a year. That's 700 new days in a year. And it's about 1,500 new words in 2 years' time. Ooh, that doesn't sound a lot. Well, it's actually quite a bit if you think about that. Most people, when they grow up, they learn on an average, you learn a word a day until you're about middle age. And then after that, kind of, you get some sort of a saturation of words. And so there's not much, you don't come across a lot of new words anymore, so to speak, right? Unless you go in a total new field. So a native English speaker speaks about 35,000 words, knows about 35,000 words. So if you think about that, if you start and to speak a language actually reasonable well, you need about 5,000 words, See, that sounds like, if you do 750 words in 2 years' time, it's maybe in 750 words a year. That seems like a very slow pace, and it seems doable. And typically, when you get over the first bump, you do that. So in this case, with this person, she actually wanted to learn a language, and I said to her, why don't you send me every day 2 words, and I promise you, I will memorize those 2 words too. I don't care what language it is, but I think I can do 2 words. It probably doesn't cost me anything. I can only do it because I have an accountability partner. If I had to do that on my own, I probably would not do it. But actually, I know some people who actually manage to do quite a bit of languages by doing that their whole life. Just every day, they just read about 2 new words in any given language. And they do that. So I thought it was a nice experiment, but the meaning of this is a little bit deeper than just the language that we learn. If you take a decision, and it could be a decision about a big thing in life, find something that you can do immediately that is relatively small, and if there's a repetition in there, even better, because then you have to do it over and over again. If not, then after you did your first action, make sure that you have a next action. So another example is, hey, you are thinking about doing a trip. Open your calendar and think, when would you like to do that trip? Just put it in put a date in there. It might change, but it might not, right? If you already know the destination, even better. Maybe there are a couple of things that you say, oh, but I don't know if I have money enough. Okay, then when do you think that you have money enough, right? So break it down. And if you constantly find excuses for yourself, most of the time you don't really want it, right? But if you really want it, you will find a way to do it, right? That's another saying, right? If you really want something, you find a way to do it. And if you don't really want it, you find an excuse to not do it, right? So it's literally as simple as that. And it doesn't really matter how old you are. That's how you motivate yourself and go into that. So anyhow, I spoke too much and too long about this already. But in the case, let me just make a little loop back to what the podcast is always about, and it has about thriving and not surviving after child abuse. What I noticed is, and this is not only because I noticed, because it's absolutely true, is a lot of child abuse survivors, they suffer from depression and anxiety, and I feel for you guys. I've been there myself. But one of the things that can help you out of that, besides maybe you need to go to therapy and take medicines, which I'm not a big proponent for if you have listened to this podcast, but if that's what needs to be done, it needs to be done. But what definitely helps too is try to come into action and take massive action. As Tony Robbins would say, there's almost nothing that helps you more forward in life than doing that, if it's motivated and if it goes into a direction that you really want to go. So those components are not very always easy to get, and that's maybe something we need to go in next time. Anyhow, this was Jean with the podcast Thrive Not Survive After Child Abuse with episode 61. Let's call it the title, after a decision, take also good action. All right. I hope to hear you tomorrow. Bye bye.